live, but without being live. Yeah, don't mind. They can't hear us. Can they hear us? Well, they can hear us. Oh, hold on.
This is #1 champion sound. Yeah, on Canonn, we're about to get down. Who's the hottest in the galaxy now? Just touched out a Thompson dock. Better give me some credits. Tell them to put money in my hand right now. Tell the bursar we need more gin. We just sold out of the avian cheese.
Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday. Take me to Pleiades to see the Thargoids play. I really want to come kick it with you. You'll be my mega ship tour. He said, hey sister, it's really, really nice to meet ya. I just met this handsome science guy who's just my type. I like the way he's speaking, his confidence is peaking. I don't like his stained lab coat, but I like what's underneath it. And no, I ain't seen the Guardian. I heard a Thargoid crash site is not too far away. First Kappa 1 Volantis, let's listen to the brain trees. I'm liking this mega ship tour, this mega ship tour. Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday. Take me to Pleiades to see the Thargoids play. I really want to come kick it with you. You'll be my mega ship tour. Come and get away this weekend. Take me to Pleiades. Let's go up and maybe we can see the Thargoids play. Let's go to Variety. Take me to your hood. I've never seen space pumpkins and I'd like to see those gourds. Dressed in your fresh lab coat, Remlo looking fresh to death. I'm loving those shell toes. Walk that walk, talk that slick talk. I'm liking this mega ship tour, this mega ship tour. Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday. Take me to Pleiades to see the Thargoids play. I really want to come kick it with you. You'll be my mega ship tour. Tell him what I want, Doc.
Who's kidding them in space, eh? Everybody's gonna say UK. Reluctantly, because most of the press don't fuck with me. Our Canonn said cool down, down. Don't act a fool now, now. Always act a fool now, ow. Ain't nothing new now, now. You crazy, I know what you're thinking. There's this gin, I know what you're drinking. Rap singer, chain blinger. Holler at the next chick as soon as you're blinking. What's your persona about this mega ship rhymer? Am I shallow? Cause my lab coat designer dressed like a smart science bloke. Before he speak his suit bespoke. And you thought he was cute before. Look at his lab coat, tell me he's broke. I know you ain't into all that. I heard your lyrics, I feel your spirit. But I still take that cash, cause lots of wags wanna hear it. And I'm feeling this Thargoid is baddest, like the pips at their gladdest. And I know they love it. To hell with all that rubbish.
Would you be my tour, my tour? Would you be mine? Would you be my tour, my tour? Would you be mine? Would you be my tour, my tour? Would you be my mega ship tour, my mega ship tour? Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday. Take me to Pleiades to see the Thargoids play. I really want to come kick it with you. You'll be my mega ship tour. Take me on a trip, I'd like to go someday. Take me to Pleiades to see the Thargoids play. I really want to come kick it with you. You'll be my mega ship tour, my mega ship tour.
Put the microphone on. Good evening, daytime, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching the Canonn Radio podcast. I am your host, Commander Carlton, and along... Stop laughing at me. And along for the ride today, we have Commanders Planglin, Ranglin, Maligno, Sovereign Winter, and Larzok. Good evening, chaps. How are you this fine day?
Very good.
Doing well.
Excellent stuff.
I made it.
You did make it. We're very pleased to have you here. Good stuff. There's a few bits to cover in today's show. There's been a few things happened since our last appearance. There's been a bit of a toing and froing between the Imperials and the Federation. There's been a bit of bad blood between a couple of the sisters. You know, there's been a ghost mega ship that's just turned up from nowhere, and we've had a Canonn issue where they didn't solve something in time and got beaten by somebody else. But other than that, it's been a good week. What about you guys? What have you been up to this week? Anything exciting?
I've been, I guess it wasn't this week, but I was out fighting off the Imperials for overstepping their boundaries.
And I finally got my fleet carrier up and running.
The war in Poe ended, and the Order of the Wandering Siamese is now in firm control of Neon Sanctuary. If anyone wants to come visit,
That's very good to hear.
I've just been chilling out in the Pleiades as usual.
What's in the Pleiades?
Lots of Thargoids.
Oh, okay. Chilling out with the Thargoids. Are they your friends or your enemies?
You know, depends how you look at it, but mostly friends.
Oh dear. Well, we'll touch on that later. But for now, let's just have a quick look at the Galnet news. There's been a few bits as we're aware of. Where should we start first of all? Should we start with the encroachment, should we say, of the Imperials into Federation space, and they're wondering why there's a problem? What's the issue?
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah, you know, when you chase refugees who legally left your systems into space that is not yours, and you get beat back across the line, and you act surprised about it, you know, there's a certain amount of confusion that'll happen there.
Don't forget the Federation had bomb-making facilities there.
Well,
What's wrong with that?
just
They didn't. There's no way.
it's just it's that justification they needed, because you can't really say we're coming to take our people back or whatever. I guess that would make people more angry than just walking across the border and opening fire, but you know.
So you're looking at the Imperials are using space as an excuse to start, stretching their wings a little bit.
Yeah, and this is, as far as I am aware, the first, I guess the first shots fired in what could very possibly boil over into a large war if it doesn't stay in the area that it started in. But
Yeah, at least it was neutral space.
yeah,
Published
it was
a few years ago, back in the Pleiades.
Yeah.
They blue-balled us the last time there was a federal Imperial War.
Well, I mean, this time it's a little closer to home than the Pleiades. The Pleiades is at least at that point, was a little bit away. We had less infrastructure out there too. It's not as fun to support a war when you don't have infrastructure somewhere. That's why you don't use horses in the Russian winter.
Horses?
You and your damn simulations, man. You gotta let go of the early 20th century agrarian farming simulators. Like, it's getting a bit too much.
Too much onion head.
Space horses.
Space horses into the space Russian winter. Sorry, got it.
Oh dear. I need to get him in there somewhere. So, because there's so much happening, it's hard to keep track of it all. Being a good scientist, it's very difficult to get involved in the war because I don't do war personally, But
Spectrographic analysis of the lasers that are hitting your enemies.
Yes, that's the
That's the spirit.
That's it. That's what you want to do. So the NMLA activists, who are they, and are they on a side, or are they literally what they say they are? Are the Imperials, like, use them as an excuse? Are they working for the Imperials? Are they working for the Federation? What do we know about them at the moment? Is there anything new that we've learned about them, or is it they're still quite, a bit of an unknown right now?
As far as I'm aware, they're still an unknown. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think a couple of things that you said are true. Like I do think they are what they say they are. Like they want the Imperial. They want to reshape the Empire, I guess, is an easy way of putting it. By cutting off a few limbs, and but at the same time, I do think the Empire is using them as an excuse to justify getting rid of either an internal or an external population. That internal one being the people that they declared like to be in cahoots with the NMLA, and the external one being the entirety of the Federation, I guess. So I don't know what I can't figure out a singular entity in the Federation that they want gone. I think it's just most of the Federation.
Well, the Federation wanted to grant sanctuary,
Yeah,
following a vote by Felicia, but President Zachary Hudson stated that illegal immigrants in the federal systems would be detained and returned to Imperial space. So they're obviously at opposite ends. So why are the Federation so willing to help them out? What is there anything behind that? Is it just because it's a political point scoring, or is there what could it? What I'm basically getting here is, we all know that this is turning into some sort of a prelude to war, but it's not quite there yet. What's it going to take to step over that line?
At present, it looks like Hudson had a good thing going with the "you leave us alone, we leave you alone" situation he had going on with Betrayus and her grand milfiness, but
Milfiness.
this whole thing is throwing a wrench in his works here. Like he's got to be a hard ass to these people who are saying, "I just want democracy. Let me live and vote for my leaders and shit."
Yeah,
and like it gums up the whole agreement he's got going on.
Yeah,
he's got to fight for it. Otherwise, everything he's arranged with the Imperial powers is thrown out the freaking window. And sure, war, why not?
Yeah, I do think that it's basically free political points for what's her name? If
Winters.
Winters. I don't know why I can never remember her name. But
Auntie Winters?
If she lets them stay in, federal space, that's, almost a vote, like free votes for her. It's free political points for her. It just it's free population influx.
Or
she going down the drain, boys. Yeah. All going down the drain.
Or I mean, she could just be playing the against the Imperial. She might be the one that's trying to get war going on, knowing
she may be a war hawk.
Yeah, just this is her way to start that. It looks nice and everything is all fine and dandy, and then I mean the Imperials flat out accused the Federation of kidnapping.
Maybe she's got big stocks and general dynamics, core dynamics.
Got to build a few more of those Corvettes.
Yeah, a few more Farraguts, a few more Corvettes, and nice little payday.
So after this all kicked off on the 27th of October, we had the assassination attempt on Hadrian. So what was it? The NMLA claimed responsibility and vowed to sever every head of the Devel Hydra. So that would suggest, obviously, that they're pretty much got a bit of an issue with that particular family. But again, is that definite? Is that misdirection? Are they just saying that because they were told to say it, or have they really got a problem with that? What could that mean?
Well, I mean, wouldn't be the first time you nuke a dynasty to stop some madness.
I mean, like we said before, that we do think they are who they claim to be. I don't see any reason why we would doubt that this was their attack, whether or not they claim responsibility. It follows their ever since they started bombing stations. This follows exactly their mantra.
Well, they might have done the attack, of course, but were they doing it on their own volition, or was it on behalf of something, or is it a part of a grand plan to just cause general chaos in the system? There's a lot of stuff that's happening that seems to have no obvious answers.
They're too organized to be doing it alone. There must
Yeah.
be someone pulling the strings.
Well, we know that there was that engineer who was found to have been making the bomb materials, or at least claims she didn't make the bomb materials, but we don't know. So you think there's a third party behind the scenes, or is it somebody else pulling the strings that we haven't seen yet?
Well, Liz
I mean,
at
they
least
might-
was found innocent, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might be getting funding from somewhere, but I don't really think they have a proper military backing. To put another reference to the early 20th century, it's not a Vietnam scenario where there's military backing on both sides.
A bit later on the 29th, which is a couple of days later, there was a mention from a Marlinist community leader who indicated they wanted to join the Federation where their democratic ideals would be nourished. What does that mean? Is that because they want to join the Federation because they just want to join the Federation, or are they saying that as a sort of a more sinister reasoning behind it? So using the Federation for their own ends.
Well, there's nothing particularly sinister about wanting to move to a place where your vote matters.
Yeah. I mean, it is also a different, not faction, I guess, maybe a different organization. Like the Marlinist is the overall
like
that
there's a difference between
that political entity. The NMLA is the extremists among them,
Yeah.
it seems.
yeah, there's a difference between an overall movement and the batshit radicals. I say this from experience.
Are you the movement or the radical?
Both.
It's kind of gray.
So
I mean, I was going to say if we want to say the neo-Marlinists are the extreme side of thing, or if we want to say the Marlinists themselves just do believe in basically strength as the end of the means, then Winters is welcoming him into the fold. Is there some more sinister background there? Strength, using strength to meet your ends was, I'm going to get my tinfoil hat to maximum crumple capacity here, but is there some kind of connection with them and Starships One? Just going back to that, we're still waiting for an answer on that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Something to dig into.
I'm sure it will surface at some point.
Future
Yes.
notes.
Moving on from that a little bit further ahead, then, because obviously this has been ongoing for ages now. That the Hadrian Duval was provided life-saving aid by our wonderful Princess Aisling, which is wonderful. But I noticed that she used the Vitadine nanomeds, those new medical things that were, made recently. Why?
You got to be careful screwing around
Yeah.
with their tech, man.
It's a bit odd that.
It's scary stuff.
So she was doing everything she could to make sure he survived. Basically, it wasn't just a one-off. It wasn't a case of it's only him.
This is how you get zombies.
or very loyal followers.
Or some gray goo, shit.
Well, gray goo, yes.
And there's a lot of concern about the whole Vitadine stuff earlier. I mean, it went through a very extensive process. Did it finish? I don't remember. Did they get it all sorted out?
I don't know.
Actually?
Yeah, sure. Somebody in the Pilots Federation okayed that shit. I'm sure. But
I've seen a
I've
commodity list.
I've lived near Antal space for a long time now, and you get some weird shit drift over the border, and some of it you don't want to poke. Like what you find in a cargo hold may not be something you want to open. Like there's a reason it's floating in space. Someone got that the hell out of their ship. This is not to say I have not found some useful things that have helped in certain situations.
Do we want to know what these situations actually are?
So I'm kind of, long story. Probably
No.
not.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So I mean, we could read on all the different parts of the Galnet news articles over the last 2 weeks, but it's all leading up to basically the same thing. On the 5th of November, the Federal and Imperial forces had a battle. They had a bit of a fight, a bit of a coming to and froing, and it didn't really come to much, to be honest. It was just like throwing stones at each other. Why did they do this though?
Because the Federation doesn't like people walking across their borders. As I imagine most people don't.
But the
purely territorial pissing match,
right?
Like the Empire feels these people are part of their territory, like a indelible part of their nation is their people, whether those people give a shit about that idea or not.
Right, but on LTT 1935 there was confirmed presence of a bomb making facility for the Marlinists, which is why they attacked there. So why did they feel that? Why didn't the Federation help with that? You would have thought that if there's concrete evidence that they are indeed blowing up space stations and trying to assassinate people, regardless if it's the Imperials or not, you would have thought that the Federation would have said, well, okay, that's probably a bit too far. Or do you honestly think that they're just sort of like putting their hands behind their back and saying, oh, nothing we can do about that, I'm afraid, is that what you think's going on?
They've got their own hassles going on between Winters and Hudson. Like if they have to pick and choose their battles, like which ones either side is going to seriously pursue, because it then leaves them weak to their opponent at home.
I mean, that and confirmed is to be honest, strong word.
Yeah, it was confirmed by the Imperials.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, it's just, their own, like I said before, it's their own internal justification. I have a feeling if there were a real bomb-making facility, not to say that there isn't a real one, but, we don't know. If there was, I feel like the Federation might have found that out when they put, every Farragut they had on high alert in that system. I feel like they would have noticed that if it was there. And as far as I'm aware, they didn't.
And if the Imperials had like concrete evidence, they could just plaster that all over Galnet, and that would make the Federation like look real bad.
Well, in a kind of way, they did do that on the 6th of November. They actually did have discussions by the looks of it. The Federal Times published that they were expecting all-out war because of what happened in 1935. And I imagine that the Imperials don't mind that too much either. It's a bit odd that the Federation are so against. Do they seem to care that
hundreds of years, and it's weird, as a born Imperial, recognizing that the society you grew up in is pretty shit.
So what if the Federation are basically? Oh, I wouldn't say they're pushing for war, because they're not really doing the instigating. That is definitely the Imperial side. They're pushing into the territories. Of course they are. Are the Federation going to welcome that sort of frontal attack? Are they going to defend themselves? And if it comes to all out war, so be it. Especially if you consider the well, what appears to be a slight fracture in the power hierarchy of the Imperials right now, with the Emperor denying Hadrian's request to be reintegrated into the Empire. That can't be going down too well, and that's a sign of weakness on that side as well, I would have thought.
I think the Federation is just sitting back and saying, "Go ahead and try it." I don't think they're going to instigate, but I don't think they're going to take it either.
Yeah, no.
This is two sides watching them eat each other eat themselves from the inside out, while Mahone is off on the side doing his dirt.
Shady stuff.
Well, where do we think this is going to lead?
For who? The Alliance?
Well,
everyone?
forgetting the Alliance for a
Kinda
moment.
leaves a lot of
Okay.
independent pilots making a lot of money shooting each other.
Yeah.
This is true.
Pretty much what it usually turns into is like the Empire and the Federation don't give a shit about any of this. It's all who's willing to pay more for us to do their work for them.
Yeah, the independent
So far,
pilot turnout was huge.
So far, that's been the Federation.
Yeah, but they're not
I mean,
directly.
Papa Petraeus used to pay pretty penny.
Well, yeah.
Thing. If he was hosting anything, there was money.
Well, I
He
mean,
pays well. He pays really well. Like he doesn't treat his employees badly. I will give the man that. He's
You're
got
like,
his
he's
shit
got a great
going on,
benefits
but
package.
like fucking A, dude, dental. You know, like emergency backup clone. You don't get that very many places.
oh God.
Credits talk.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, if I ever get sidewindered, I got one clone backup ready to go.
Oh, geez.
Well, that aside, the last thing that's obviously happened recently is the, like I said, that Hadrian has been denied access to the family. It seems to indicate that Hadrian and Aisling are possibly having words and maybe starting to look about future plans, should we say? So, you know, does that mean that the Empress's days are numbered, or is it just, are they going to lie quietly still and just get on with it? I mean, I don't know. I can't see that, but that ending well.
It seems like it's potential power shift if two of them are going up against the Emperor.
Which could be interesting if they start fighting each other, and then the Federation possibly enlist the Marlonists' help in driving forward.
I mean, it's really strange bedfellows. Hadrian is a hardcore traditionalist, and Aisling is anything but. So for the two of them to team up against the Emperor, who let the man live when she didn't have to, at fucking all.
Mm.
You know, like he owes her a lot just for still breathing, you know, and now, you know, Aisling has got her hand on him as well. He's in a shit spot, I gotta say.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I do want to at least add that Aisling has definitely started to kind of swing more traditional than ever before, especially after NMLA killed her dad.
Yeah, that didn't go down so well.
Yeah, she kind of turned pretty aggressive after that.
Oh, I suppose. No, you can't. No.
But she's kind of started to embrace some more traditional imperialistic values. You know, I was actually kind of wondering if
it's going nuts.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it isn't talked about much, but Imperial tech has some side effects that cause strange things.
Oh God!
Most notably, her favored shield.
Anyway, we'll have to see where that goes. I suspect we're not going to hear the last of that. That's gonna progress.
Just a old tinfoil.
I like tinfoil.
Old.
We wear tinfoil. Okay, so moving on from the political struggles of people more fortunate than we are, if or not, as the case may be. Something else happened recently that kind of caused a little bit of a stir. The abandoned megaship sort of just flew into the Chukchan system and caused a bit of interest. The Adamastor, as I'm sure most people are fully aware of what's been going on, coming from somewhere, no signs of life. It appears to have been in the middle of something quite terrible. Lots of explosions, doors hanging off, bad things happening inside, but nobody on board. The salvage crew of the members of the Alliance, which I don't know what they were doing there exactly, but they decided to get on there and have a look. They reported there was no crew, all escape pods were launched. Several airlocks manually opened from the inside, which is a bit odd. And of course, the most important bit, the data drives were deliberately erased. So we have no idea what was on board the ship. Well, we didn't have any idea what was on board the ship. What did you guys think of that when it first came in? Did you go and have a look at it? Did you see what it was all about?
I was busy defending federal space.
See, when something sciencey comes up and Canonn are there to pick up the mantle, you're off shooting imps. That's shocking.
Well, it's, you know, I'm not good at puzzles. I'm good at connecting bullets to enemies.
Did anybody else go and have a look?
I've been out in Colonia. I haven't had a chance. All of my visiting has been secondhand.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so that'd be a no then.
And I was doing my own thing too, but at least keeping an eye on the Canonn comms. And I have to say, this was quite an interesting, quite a buzz for Canonn in general.
Yes, it was. We all rose from our own crisis pods and decided to call to action. The Pilots Federation, the wonderful people that they are, they managed to intercept a signal of binary code, which seemed to suggest that there was something going on in the Coalsack Nebula. This was further confirmed when we had a chat with somebody who was on a local space station, who mentioned the ship. They dug into some old records, some private investigator, and to cut a long story short, as we all know, the ship was last seen flying towards the Crab Nebula, which we don't know where it was going. And then, of course, there was a couple of codes, a couple of messages that were found on board the ship to give us some idea where it was going. And then, of course, there was a message on the listening post that was found near where the Adamastor had suddenly turned and went towards the Coalsack Nebula. This message was exciting because nobody from Canonn Science Group could determine what it meant, which was really quite irritating. How long, gentlemen, did we spend on that infernal message?
Days.
I want to say it was a
Weeks.
Weeks. Yes.
Oh my.
I was personally convinced there was nothing.
It felt like weeks.
It felt like years. It was. I personally think it was one of the most frustrating puzzles that Canonn have had to deal with in a long time. Not because it was unsolvable, because we know it wasn't, but because it was the most ludicrously simple puzzle that every single person overlooked, except for that one guy who wasn't in Canonn and managed to find it independently how to solve it. Very sad.
Would you care to say what the way to solve it was?
Only under duress. So, as you may remember, the code itself was a rather long list of meaningless gibberish. However, after counting it out, it turned out that it was in multiples of 8. The very first number of the message was the number 8. It shouldn't have taken somebody from outside of Canonn to figure out that all you really had to do was count every 8th character, which spelled out the Coalsack Nebula's exact location, the planet where we were supposed to be going. Now, what I find quite remarkable, to be fair to Canonn, is we actually found this planet without deciphering the code, which is quite remarkable if you think about it. So we actually...
How did that happen?
It's also not the first time we've done that. There's been a lot of brute forcing in the past.
If you throw enough bodies
Yeah.
at a square cubic sector of space, you are going to find it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
I
there's...
think that's how the original
division of labor.
Guardians types
you
were.
give
I pride myself...
100 people, each 30 systems, and you have chewed up a very good chunk of space very quickly.
Yes,
And I assume the advent of probes probably sped up the whole search, right? Was it
the
a
probes and the full spectrums?
Without question. If it wasn't for the FSS, I don't think we'd ever have found it, because it was... That would
Not
just been
yet, at least.
No.
We'd probably be in the right area and be back to the good old times of beige pounding.
Oh my god.
yes.
The days I
I
spent
am
flying
not-
upside down.
Yes. I'm not getting those hours back.
No, they're all gone. And you know what? For the days and days that I flew upside down in my asp, I never found a single thing. That was a long time ago.
I found a Thargoid structure flying upside down, and that was the only thing I ever found.
Well, trust me, that's
by doing-
impressive.
I think I have 1 or 2 ruins out in Vela Dark that have my name on them.
Nice.
I found
Yeah, I
rocks.
Yeah,
Many rocks.
This was not without hundreds of hours of just
Yes.
staring.
Yeah.
The fucking drip in that DBS. They need to recall that goddamn ship and fix that drip.
Well, the point is that I always thought that I prided myself on a certain refinement, solving a puzzle and then going to the solution, not finding the solution and then going to the problem and not solving it anyway. Oh, it's a dark time for Canonn, dark time.
Well, see, the thing is, I would say we handled it very well. It's just that it didn't fit any of the tools that we already had.
What were you?
Shit happens.
What were you
See all the
talking?
encryption techniques.
Yeah, we pulled out literally every encryption technique that I think I've ever heard of, and some of them I didn't even know existed. The fact that I guess whoever it was that originally designed this message, it almost feels like they knew what the more scientifically minded people would be reaching.
Oh, you're not
encryption
wrong.
techniques,
Yes, you're not wrong.
Our box of tricks.
You're not
Yeah.
wrong. That would not surprise me. At the end of the day, the best encryption is the most simple,
Yeah.
because you will
Or thought of
always
it, yeah.
overlook the obvious, which we did. I still have nightmares. Anyway, at least it wasn't as bad as the spectrograph. So we did find the base ourselves, and we obviously come to the conclusion that interesting things were happening. And it turns out that there was something of a xeno nature had been captured. We don't actually know what that was yet. There's been lots of speculation that it was a Thargoid sensor probe of some sort, or a link, or something along those lines. But unless I'm mistaken, there's not been any concrete evidence that that is the case. Am I wrong thinking that?
It was something corrosive. That's all I remember about it. Is that I know they had issues storing it, I think.
Well, that's basically every Thargoid thing in
Yeah,
existence.
It was something corrosive, though. So yeah, it was a Thargoid object.
Well, just nearby to the base was a crashed Thargoid vessel, and it was interesting to note that the cockpit was empty, and it was unusual because, well, I don't think Thargoids tend to wander outside that often, as far as I know. So there has been some speculation that it was a live Thargoid they captured, possibly even a queen. What do you think of that
Oh
idea?
wow.
I mean,
It could explain
know.
why everyone was in a hurry to get out of the Adamastor.
Well, bearing in mind that this would, if this is all true, of course, which we have no reason to believe it isn't, this was the first recorded contact with the Thargoid species, because it was way before our time, of course, way before INRA. So, you know, it's interesting.
I'd say probably more like the first recorded of the modern-ish generation. Like we've got 200-year-old people floating around out there right now.
We don't know if they've ever had a Thargoid experience, though, do we?
We don't, but I mean, I know damn well Jacques is over 200 years old,
Ah.
and he was into some way spooky shit. You don't become a full conversion cyborg without someone paying the bill, and then wind up with a station after it. You've done some dark shit, bartender friend.
I think he's had I reckon Guardians personally there, or
For what?
time travel.
I think it was. I think this is just the result of feeding an FSD with whiskey. Whatever that gives off when it spins up full of whiskey is probably not good for your brain.
Well, I wouldn't put it past some corporation who looks at its employees as replaceable because there's trillions of other people around. That there wasn't a kind of Zerara sleeper agent kind of setup where one person has the authority when signaled, clean this shit up.
Well, whether or not that he was involved with a xeno species of some description, we don't know. I don't think we're ever going to find out, because I don't suspect that we'll get much of a conversation from the guy. But I find it fascinating personally that this is a recorded first contact. There's no question of that. It is a recorded first contact with Thargoids. We still don't know a great deal about what happened that day. We don't know for certain, for example, that the Adamastor was actually attacked by Thargoid vessels, or the Adam. We don't know everything. That we have a few scorch marks on the hull. We have no idea what happened on the ship. All we do know is that they were driven mad by whatever was on the ship, mentally mad, probably by some. That's why I'm thinking perhaps it wasn't just an item, but an actual living creature, because it wouldn't surprise you to think that they've got some sort of telepathic abilities. I believe that's how they communicate, isn't it? So
Speculated. I mean,
speculated. We don't know for certain, of course. We're not that.
The Guardians found their language.
Well,
one species telepathy is probably another's, just vocal usage. They probably transmit on a frequency we can't hear.
Our radios are probably like telepathy to some other species.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing pirates on my radio all the time. It's bizarre. Yeah, so I mean, this is probably a good time to talk about the Thargoids in a bit more detail, I'd imagine, which is kind of why we're here really today. The question I pose is: are Thargoids misunderstood? Are they the enemy? Are they a misunderstood species? Are they there just protecting themselves, or are they a benevolent creature that we just happen to have poked the wrong way, or are they bent on humanity's eternal destruction? Joining us, as I mentioned earlier today, we have Commander Maligno, who is somewhat of an expert on, studying Thargoids. That's the right word.
Yes.
Not dissecting, studying. Yes.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit about what you believe Thargoids are all about. What do you think, or what do you believe you know about them in terms of what they do and why they're here? What do you know?
I don't think it's a particularly enigmatic answer, to be honest with you. And I say that after having read the logs from Left Behind by the Guardians. I mean, they try to communicate with them, and let me tell you, the Guardians were gifted linguists. They were very good at figuring out languages, and they try to communicate. And they just learned that Thargoids have no real concept of territory. That they behave like insects. They're an insectoid, sort of hive mentality, sort of race, and they're not bad, they're not good, they're not stewards, they're just doing their own thing, and we're just flies in the way.
So, do you
But
believe then that they think or look upon us as nothing more than an inferior species, like we would look at like a space hook spider and just look at it and just ignore it completely? Is that what you're suggesting?
yes, in fact, it's even beyond inferiority. We're just a nuisance. We just happen to be in the way. This is their territory, the whole galaxy is their territory, and we just happen to be squatting in their what they consider to be theirs, because everything's theirs. What I mean. They have no concept of property or ownership or diplomacy. They are who they are, and we're just in the way. Yeah, those are my 2 cents, at least after having read those Guardian logs.
And we believe, well, we think we believe, we don't really know for certain, I suppose, that they originated from which space? So, do they live there, or are they? Is it just their territory, as you say? Do they leave witch space to come out to our normal space, as we would go into their witch space, for example?
See, that is above my pay grade, unfortunately. I'm not at that biscuit level yet. The biscuits I eat are not quite golden, just quite. But I suspect that's the case. That they're natural, they're native to which space. That's what some people say. But I'm not sure about that. I wouldn't know the answer to that.
So
And even
what?
if they even
Yep.
if they aren't native, they obviously have better control over that interdimensional space we call witch space more than we do.
Absolutely.
Well, they can drag us out of it for one thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and they don't really tool around in super cruise like we do. I mean, they just drop into normal space, and they just warp to whatever other section of normal space they need to. And they do so with their own sort of wormhole witch space technology.
Well, they're able to
You
jump
know,
straight onto planets, which I think is quite impressive.
that makes me wonder if the reverse engineering of their technology that led to our current frame shift drive, I believe, is the current shit you're not supposed to talk about from Sirius Incorporated. Is like a version of how they operate between our space and witch space. They don't operate in that band of reality where super crews reside.
I was just
Right.
thinking that they're so accurate with it. Like we have to use a star to pinpoint our jumps if they can just jump out in the
But
middle of nowhere.
when you think about it, that travel layer that our engines can pull off is pretty nuts. In a real space terms, we're moving around pretty damn quick.
That's true.
Right, but their level of understanding of which space is, of course, far superior. I mean, I totally agree with you that what we have at our disposal is essentially magic, but they have a completely different, kind of more native understanding of which space, whereas we're sort of bootstrapping things.
Yeah, they can jump in and out of the water. Like we have to use the scuba suit.
Yeah, it's
Right,
a very good way of looking at it,
Abs-
actually.
very
Yeah.
good analogy.
So, did we steal the scuba suit? Because I mean, there's been a lot of speculation that I've read about how, for example, the Adamaster, as I mentioned before, they were picking up something, and we do know that the Adamaster was owned by a pharmaceutical company, which changed their name at least once. And there's a couple of murmurings, a couple of there's nothing confirmed, of course, but they could be perhaps like the precursor to INRA. They could even be the precursors to Sirius themselves. Is it possible that initial contact, what they took was actually a drive of some sort that they used to come up with today's engines, or is that too far-fetched, do you think?
Not at all.
Not far-fetched at all. And by the way, I like to say that that's probably not the only thing that they took. They probably also learned about Thargoid shielding technology. We probably owe a lot to the Thargoids when it comes to shielding technology. And I'll talk about this later, but it's no coincidence that the default resistances of our shields are the same as that of Thargoids. And that is no coincidence, I think.
It's the opposite, isn't it, in terms of how they work? So Thargoid shields decrease over time, whereas ours increase over time.
And they release the shield to prevent further damage. And because they're so confident in their other abilities, they don't need the shield to stick around forever. And so it's got a natural decay. If you wait long enough, it'll go away on its own.
So you're describing, if you were to look at the natural world of more human-based natural world, I should probably mention, you're talking about a reaction defense mechanism that small animals might, for example, use instead of having a technological device that you would turn on to save yourself from being eaten by something that was bigger than you. Thargoids do the same sort of thing where they're attacked and they instinctively react by whacking their shield up. So does that suggest then that the entire of the Thargoid interaction with their vessels is all organic?
It's highly organic. I mean, theirs is a sort of biotechnological structure. It's highly organic, but it's technological at the same time. But it's mostly organic, I would say. The underlying mechanisms, the underlying principles are organic. That's my thought.
Interesting. So I wonder if we have used, like I've speculated before, that we've actually, well, if, in this respect, dissected a Thargoid and used its biological secrets to determine how to create our own technological devices. That's a disturbing thought, really, isn't it?
It is, but never underestimate the power of greed.
Well,
Is what I say.
money's always talks in this galaxy, no matter how far back we go. Did you gentlemen have anything you wanted to ask our resident dissection expert about Thargoids today?
I actually do, if that's quite all right. I was looking over some of your papers, and I'm seeing something referenced here called a barnacle purr,
Yes.
and I'm bothered by the two words that I'm putting together.
Go ahead.
Could you explain?
Well, I'm gonna probably pin that on Pan Piper or somebody else. Somebody coined that term "purr" because it just sounds like a rather um, low frequency cat purr, and it's people love their cats. That's all I can say. And so, but it's a repetitive sound that's emanated by barnacles every so often. And a while back I did some acoustic analysis of barnacles, and they have these purrs come every half a hertz or so, every 2 seconds or so. And then there's other acoustic features, but the purr is something that happens that's very salient.
I guess we talked about this before, but what is your take on what is a barnacle? What is it for? What is its purpose?
Why do the
I-
Thargoids yell at them?
I think I would have to sort of say that it's a part of that. I'm part of that sort of orthodox school of thought that it's just some kind of mineral extraction um, utility living thing. Like it's just there. It serves a purpose. It extracts minerals from the ground and turns that into meta alloys, which they use. You feed a Thargoid meta alloys and they go crazy. In fact, when you feed them meta alloys, they tend to call a buddy to come and have some more meta alloys. Actually, so yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I was unaware of that behavior.
Yeah, they summon one Cyclops interceptor. When they feed on at least 5 units, 5 meta allo canisters, they emit some kind of uh, witch head, not witch head, witch space signal, and they call another Cyclops in to feed on on whatever's left. It's kind of interesting, actually. In the Thargoid vivisection community, we actually have used that to our advantage to have a bigger representative sample of interceptors to study at a time.
And I guess for the lesser informed, if you wouldn't mind describing the interceptor variants.
Oh, right. So there's 4 interceptor variants that we know of right now. There's the first one that we encountered a couple of years ago. It's the Cyclops, and that one has 4 hearts, and that is it. It has a certain minimal level of defensive and offensive capabilities. After that, it's the Basilisk variant, which has 5 hearts. And then after that is the Medusa, which has 6 hearts. And the ultimate sort of biggest bad boy that we know of right now is the Hydra, which has 8 hearts. And we believe that each successive um, interceptor variant is actually an older uh, interceptor. They just, as they grow older, they get more powerful and more and have different characteristics to them. In fact, one of the analyses that I did a while back was trying to understand the defensive capabilities of interceptors, namely their shields. And in Canonn, we try to we always try to be as rigorous as possible, as mathematically rigorous as possible. And I employed some linear algebra, some algebraic techniques to figure out the shield strengths and the K rates and a few other properties. And one of the big surprises from that analysis was that Thargoid interceptors, no matter what flavor they come in, what variant, they all have the same resistances as human unengineered shields. So the default shield that you get when you buy a Sidewinder has the same set of resistances as Thargoid interceptors. For instance, that would be 50% resistance to explosive damage, 40% resistance to kinetic, and minus 20% resistance to thermal damage. Now, when I carried out this analysis, that was the biggest surprise of it all. When I saw that, I was like, aha, this has got to be some kind of link between our shield technology and the Thargoid shielding technology.
That is fairly impressive stuff. Quite concerning as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of segues back to what you were saying earlier, that we must have somehow harvested or mined their technology a while back, and somehow it probably took time to push that to market. But I'm guessing that that's what happened a while back, that we somehow borrowed some of their shielding technology specifics.
It's interesting to notice because obviously the Thargoids themselves, we haven't heard from them for quite a long time. Until relatively recently, when we started to find these weird probes, which no one knew what they were. We weren't able to figure out at all where they came from. And of course the ridiculous ingenuity of Canonn top scientists, which I still think is an impressive work, managed to actually decode what the probes were telling us. To cut a very long story short, that anybody who is been in Canonn for a while will know how it all goes. We eventually found the things called links, and they pointed to the Guardian site, not Guardian, the Thargoid, what we call them bases, but we're not really sure what they were. And then, of course, they came back as well. They started to interdict us. They were a bit pissy. We're not really sure specifically why they come back, especially in such numbers. Do you, from what you've just told us, I mean, my initial thought about the Thargoids is that time doesn't have a great deal of meaning for them. I imagine that they being in which space is probably going to affect their perception of time. I personally think that anyway. So,
Well, that's certainly one line of thought could certainly be the case. Now, there's another sort of more orthodox line of thinking that claims that perhaps Thargoids took their time coming back because they were building an immune response to the mycoid
yes.
virus. The mycoid agent, I don't know what the right adjective is, but the mycoid, it took them a while to recover from that. And I'm guessing that's one of the reasons why they took their time coming back.
And as far as I know, they're immune to it now, yes?
Yes, they're immune to it. I mean, they're still angry about it. That's why they attack INRA bases periodically.
So what are they doing now then? Why do we think they've got all these links, and the probes and artifacts and their bases? Have we ever come to we can't come to a conclusion because we simply don't know. Of course, I know that. But what would be the best guess? What's the best speculation that you know of that this has happened?
I think these were just when it comes to what used to be known as the unknown sensor, and now known as the Thargoid sensor, which, by the way, that was the very first piece of Thargoid technology we came across, and that's what gave birth to Canonn, by the way. Canonn and a bunch of other cannoneers wrapped their heads around the unknown sensor, and that's what got the whole ball rolling. But anyway, the sensor and the probe, those were basically sniffing or forward scouting pieces of technology, and they were sort of trying to determine what was happening in the Pleiades in the intervening time. And that's what I'm guessing that they did with that. Now, with the links, that's a little bit more complicated, because that has to do with finding other Thargoid structures. And there, things get a little more complicated as to the why those pieces of technology are around.
Is it possible that the Thargoids at that time were looking for these structures for themselves?
Oh, it's possible. I mean, I don't think we've entertained that idea, but yes, I mean, these devices essentially emit a lot of octal emissions. The Thargoids thinks in terms of the number 8, so-called octals, and I'm guessing that yes, that they might have been using that to locate their these lost assets from 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Not that we know what they are, because they showed some sort of star system, star maps. I've always entertained the idea that they were searching for lost locations, and they're looking for things, maybe barnacle locations, perhaps. Don't know, but yeah. So, I mean, all this, I think, leads on to the question that we asked at the beginning: are Thargoids misunderstood by humans? Are we treating them incorrectly?
I think they're okay. This is where Commander Node and I disagree. I mean,
Yes.
okay,
Commander Note
Yeah,
couldn't be here today, unfortunately. We did ask, but I don't think he was available, sadly. But yes, we certainly know his feelings on the matter. So
you know,
what's yours?
and in fact, I was once in his school of thought when I first got started with Canon. I thought, in fact, that these transmissions coming out of the Thargoid structures and the links and all that, I thought it was a cry for help. Honestly, I thought that these creatures were somehow, in their own way, trying to communicate with us um, in their own weird way. But then we saw what happened with the Guardians, and that's when I kind of changed my mind about things. The Guardians were excellent linguists. They try to communicate with them. They could simply not bridge that gap between species, between alien species. And basically, the way I regard the Thargoids, I don't think of them as evil or good, or they're just a force of nature. They're a force of nature, and they operate with their own agenda, if you will. And we're just in the way. And but we do have to treat them with respect. I think we have to regard them with respect.
Should we be leaving their barnacles and their meta alloys alone?
Hell no.
Wait a minute.
Oh hell no! The profit margins, man. Come on now. No way. We're there. We've occupied. No, okay, no. That's a kind of
I think there's enough to share.
yeah.
If they want to like loan out a cedar ship every once in a while, hey, let us know what we're looking for. We'll go scout planets too, and barnacles
Right.
for everybody.
Right. I mean, I do think that we should be having some kind of galaxy-wide conversation about this, and I kind of blame the Pilots Federation for not really spearheading that conversation. I mean, many of us, especially when this whole thing started 2 years ago, were interested in communicating with the Thargoids. Not killing them, but the big push back then was, okay, let's develop weapons. The whole military industrial complex kicked in, and it kind of overwhelmed everything. But a number of us did want to communicate. We had what we called Project Mercury a while back, where
Mhm.
we essentially reverse engineered the octals coming out of the Thargoid sensor, and we took a Thargoid sensor, we fed it uh, our own set of octals, describing our own ships, and we fed it to a Thargoid Cyclops, and we never heard back from them. And in a way, I'm not surprised because we gave it a shot. We tried to communicate with the Thargoids. The Guardians, who were much better at that task than we were, they failed. And so I kind of knew that we were going to fail as well, but we gave it a crack. But the Pilots Federation did not really help out in that regard. They were not. They were more obsessed with developing weapons at the time.
Go and lie down.
I
Well,
don't know if you guys want to chime in on that, but that's just my two cents, as they say.
no, I mean that's fair enough. I don't
I
think.
mean, I'm all for the alternate, tech possibilities of Thargoid technology. Like they're useful devices. They've spawned religions. It's who knows what they're doing to us mentally, physically, how they're interacting with our bodies, and what else they can do. Like
Right.
we
And we had some
there's
interesting
other
medical
shit.
stuff in the last one, right? The Edamaster, there's some. They
Oh,
affect us somehow.
it's documented. We all go a little bit crazy around Thargoid technology, and like meta alloys seem to help a little bit, but it's not a perfect thing, and we really need to know what the hell is going on here. Like, I get my eyes checked every year to keep my Pilots Federation license to make sure they're good fresh eyes, and we've all seen it, the light distortion around this shit.
Mhm.
It's That's not pure hallucination, right? Like you all see that,
Oh
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Many people are actually salivating over those engines that they have. They want their ships to emanate those sweet, time
Mir-
distorting. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a mirage in space.
Oh,
right,
believe me, I would love a decent set of engines, because it's rough flying an Anaconda. Say that.
That's true.
absolutely.
I do, if we don't mind, I do want to kind of go back to an earlier point you touched on,
Go
and
for it.
that's the surface site. You had mentioned that flying upside down. That's how you found one of the surface sites. Um, I have never been myself, but I've obviously seen some pictures posted. These sites are massive.
You
Oh
can see them from
yes,
orbit.
yes,
They are pretty big. They're very similar to our standardized city port.
But uh, sorry, I'm just amazed by the size of this. But then like we can drive our SRVs into them. Like there's pathways that are big enough. Does that hint that that's how is that a size hint to the Thargoids? Are they that big? Do we know?
Well, I mean, we see the size of their servitor drones, with the scavengers.
hmm
If anybody of us have been
Yeah.
there, they're roughly the size of our SRV, if not a little bit
Hmm.
bigger. So, like, are these an approximation of their piloted vehicles? Can they fit inside of one of these? Is it, like s- us to a cow kind of scale? Like, what we don't know, we don't have a reference scale for whoever, whatever the hell is actually behind any of this. Like,
right,
are the robots them? Are they the robots? Like it if bio machines ran crazy, like, at one point, where does programming and just nature blend? What if they're all them?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't the Guardians in some way create the Thargoids?
Oh no, no, that
Nothing we've seen,
I,
no.
I, I only
Well, as
I only
as
ask
far
because I
as
can't
we
remember.
can tell from Ramtom logs, is no, not at all. Like, the Thargoids were there before the Guardians, and they'll be there after we leave. Like, they've outlived the Guardians. They're going to outlive us. They are, as Maligno said earlier, a force of nature. You can't, like,
right,
They seem to have no natural predators.
prior to weather control, like, there was no way to stop a hurricane. Like, there wasn't a predator coming around to eat the
Mm.
hurricane.
So Thargoids are pretty much inevitable.
I think they're just a thing. They're like a tide. Like, it's a herd that moves around, and if anything, we are fucking up their cycle big
right,
time by poking at all of their shit and going, oh, what's it do? I'm gonna
right,
take it.
That's a very interesting word you used, actually, cycle, because we don't see the Thargoids for hundreds of years and then they reappear. And 200 years ago, they attacked the Adamastor because they stole something that was theirs by the sounds of it. And then that we find the crashed ships that appear to be quite old as well. Is it a possibility then that they do come out only at certain points in their life cycle? So they every so many hundred years they come out, they do something, tend to their barnacles, whatever that's for, and then disappear again. Is that a possibility?
We see insects all throughout the galaxy that we know of, on all life-bearing worlds that have cycles. Anywhere we've been long enough sitting around to go, huh, and watch it for a while, there's cycles. So I don't see why a spaceborne, possibly insectoid creature wouldn't also have, a natural migration cycle. It's just on such a stupid scale that it's like, what?
And we
right.
just happen to be in the way this time.
Yeah, it's no more stoppable than a supernova. as far as I'm concerned. Learn to deal with it or die.
That's a one way of
Yeah, it
looking at it, I
could be.
suppose.
Yeah, I mean, another way to look at it is it could be that these Thargoids are, in a way, almost like a Fermi filter. Like I forgot if it was Fermi or Fermat. One of them that, there's a whole Fermat paradox. Why aren't there any
Fermi's
more?
paradox.
Oh, Fermi's.
Fermi
Okay,
says,
Mm.
where's everybody else?
exactly.
We've found them, and
In which
one
space?
of the great filters happens to be, oh look, space bugs.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, so we have to tread carefully when it comes to the Thargoids. I mean, they indirectly took down the Guardians. I mean, the way the Guardians went down, they actually, technically speaking, they defeated the Thargoids with their AIs. But then after that happened, their own AIs turned on them, and then the whole civilization imploded. It's more complicated than that, but in their own way, the Thargoids defeated the Guardians, but we have to essentially be careful with how we deal with Thargoids.
It's about time to wrap things up in a moment, but I think that what we'll do is, just before we go, is I'll ask the question around the room, as it were. Thargoids, kill them or pet them?
Oh, I'll go first, actually, if you don't mind. Okay,
for it.
this is going to be controversial. Pet them and then kill them.
Nice. That's like a proper scientist would say. Make them your friend, then check their insides. Yes, very nice. Lars, kill or pet, or leave the fuck alone.
Ask if they got any more of that green goo, because that shit is handy.
Well,
That's all I'll say.
Bang.
I mean, I when I was poking at them with my courier, they didn't seem to appreciate me. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna take too kindly to them if I ever go searching for them again.
So that's a kill.
Yeah, probably.
Sovereign.
I'm going to go with pet him, domesticate him, and train him in the army, because we all know the biggest, baddest thing in the galaxy is still out there ready to attack, and that's the bark mounds.
Fucking bark mounds.
Nice.
Oh, what a way to end the show. Bark mounds. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a great show. Thanks to Pangolin Man. I can't speak tonight.
Who am I?
I don't know who you are. I have no idea who you are. You're that guy who talks about propellers. I've got no idea what they are either. Thanks to Maligno, Sovereign, and Larzok for turning up today. We'll be back again at some point. I've got absolutely no idea what we're going to talk about. I'm not going to say anything today, because if I say something to me, then we have to talk about it. And if I say something they don't want to talk about, they'll probably end up shooting out of an airlock. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we disappear tonight? Happy to know then.
No.
You've been listening to Canonn Radio Podcast. We broadcast, well, whenever we feel like it, to be honest. Usually at least once a month. And we will be back. And thank you for listening. And we'll see you again soon. Goodbye for now.